Hello everyone, welcome to the next drug that we're going to be talking about, next class of drug, and these class of drugs are anti-tumor antibiotics or anti-tumor drugs. I'm going to be talking about 4 different kinds. Number 1 is actinomycin. Number 2 is DOXORUBICIN. Number 3 is BLEOMYCIN. And number 4 is etoposide. Okay, alright, so let's talk about the mechanism of action of each one of them first. Okay. Mechanism of action of actinomycin. These are all intercalating substances, or in the intercalate DNA. What they do is they generate free radicals which goes and sits on the DNA strand, and it does not let DNA replication to continue or to increase. So they, in general, they're going to be intercalating DNA. Okay, that's for actinomycin. For DOXORUBICIN, the same thing. They're also going to be intercalating DNA. Now, and they do it kind of non-covalently. Okay, they do it non-covalently, and they generate free radicals, and that's how they intercalate DNA. So quite simple. Now moving on to BLEOMYCIN. This one is also, mechanism of action would be intercalates DNA, but there is a little bit specific information here, and they do it at the G2 phase of DNA replication. Etoposide, this one also intercalates DNA. This one actually inhibits a direct enzyme called topoisomerase type 2. Okay, so it inhibits topoisomerase 2, and it does so in the S to G2 phase of DNA replication. Okay, so these are the mechanism of action. What about the clinical use? Clinical use of actinomycin. Also, another name for it is actinomycin D. Another name for it is actinomycin D. The way I learned the clinical use is I used a mnemonic. This is my mnemonic, WORM, W-E-R-M. Okay. And we are talking about clinical use. W stands for Wilms tumor. Okay. E stands for Ewing sarcoma. R stands for rhabdomyosarcoma, and M stands for myelosuppression. Even the myelosuppression is really the toxicity. I liked putting it all together, kind of that way it's easier for me to remember what was the M. Another way of remembering these toxicities are by knowing that they are and these are all child tumors. Okay, so Ewing sarcoma, rhabdomyosarcoma, Wilms tumor, these are usually found in child, and you can kind of say actinomycin D, children's act out. So that's one way of remembering it. So that's dactinomycin or actinomycin D. Next is doxorubicin. Okay, and the clinical use for this one is, okay, this one has a strange mnemonic for me. I don't know if it's going to work for you. I use the mnemonic MASA. It's M-S-S-A, MASA, C-M-A. So C-M-A. Okay, so, alright, so what does M stands for? M stands for myeloma. Okay. S stands for sarcoma. So these are all tumors, okay? Myeloma, sarcoma. The other S stands for solid tumors. And the last A is part of the ABVD regimen. What kind of regimen is that? ABVD regimen is the regimen for Hodgkin's lymphoma. Hodgkin's. Okay. These are the clinical use of doxorubicin or daunorubicin. I'm sorry, I didn't mention that. Okay, daunorubicin. What about the toxicities of doxorubicin and daunorubicin? What does C stand for? C stands for cardiotoxicity. M stands for myelosuppression. And A stands for alopecia. Okay. So that's my MASA CMA. I have a similar mnemonic for etoposide, so I'm going to directly go to etoposide right here. So for me, the toxicities of the clinical use and toxicities of etoposide, I used Scott. Okay, the word is in my head, but I write down S-C, Scott, G-M-A. So I remember it's MASA CMA is for doxorubicin and daunorubicin, and Scott, GMA, is for etoposide. So for S, it's going to be small cell carcinoma of the lung. Okay. For C, it's going to be sorry, I got a little confused, so I had to check. The C is really, the SC is together. So small cell carcinoma now the small cell carcinoma, it's not only of the lung, it's also of the prostate. So small cell carcinoma of lung and prostate. And T is going to be for testicular cancer. Okay. Testicular cancer. So those are the clinical use of etoposide, the Scott GMA. The G stands for GI irritation or GI distress. Okay. M stands for myelosuppression. And A stands for alopecia. So just like doxorubicin or daunorubicin, C stood for cardiotoxicity, M stood for myelosuppression, and A stood for alopecia. And this one is GMA, GI distress, myelosuppression, and alopecia. A lot similar in that sense. Now let's go to the one that we left out, and that is bleomycin. Okay, so let's talk about the toxicities, the clinical use and the toxicities of bleomycin. In terms of, okay, I have a strange one for this one too. I have the clinical use and the toxicities kind of mixed together, and whenever I write it down, I choose which one is what. and the mnemonic that I use is PAST, so P-A-S-T, just because it's easier to remember for me. The P is for pulmonary fibrosis. The A stands for ABVD regimen, and this regimen is for Hodgkin's. The S is for skin changes. Okay, and the T stands for testicular cancer. Okay, so those are my clinical use and the toxicities together, so I know that A and T are clinical use. So this one and this one, I'm just going to highlight them in a different color. This one and this one is my clinical use, and pulmonary fibrosis and skin changes are the toxicities. There is very minimal myelosuppression, that's why I didn't talk about it. Anyway, so hope you found this tutorial helpful. Leave me a comment below if you have any changes you'd like to see in the videos, or visit my blog to have these notes written down if you wanted to have them. Other than that, I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.